Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Intergalactic Interviews, episode 160. My name is Jayme McDonald. I'm here with C-Mart. Brother Jayme is taking the week off. He's got some medical conditions that need to be addressed. We wish you the best, brother. Okay, today we are here with two very outstanding members of the musical and artistic community here in Canada and over the border. First, I'd like to introduce a photographer, a videographer, a musician, a survivor, and a lover. His name is R.D. Kane.
Wow, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I'll take that.
I'd like to welcome you on the show.
Thanks, Gtone.
We're going to get into the things that you do and a little bit of your history. The other guy we got sitting at the table here is a legend in his own right, a musician, Winnipeg born, lives in Los Angeles, has many credentials to his name. His name is Richard Duguay. Thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, guys. I thought you were going to say a legend in his own mind. I really thought that's where you were going. And you wouldn't be wrong.
And you would not be wrong.
Beautiful. So, RD, you're a photographer.
I am.
How long have you been doing photographs, my friend?
Wow, that's a tough question. Really, it all starts with like when I was like 17 years old. I left home in Toronto, and I ended up in Gibson's on the West Coast, and I started working on The Beachcombers, a TV show. And within like 48 hours of me arriving here, I was on the crew, and I was working in the camera department. So
wow.
I always had like an idea of what cameras were about, but that was like massive university right away, instant. And because my older brother got me the job, but he left 2 days after I arrived. So I did nothing but learn. I was the young camper on the crew.
What year was this? You were saying
1974.
Wow.
So I was a youngster, and I just learned. I learned how to load magazines. I learned how to shoot. I learned how to, change lenses, do all that stuff.
On legit film cameras.
Yeah, film cameras, motion picture cameras. Yeah. But you know what? The CBC was brilliant at that time because it was the only game in the whole country. So nobody else was shooting film. And we just always worked. And we had no dough. Like there was no money. So we just made stuff up as we went along. So it was like the best university I could have ever asked for.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty
I grew up watching The Beachcombers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know Bruno personally. Or I did.
Did.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of videos for talent in Vancouver. When did you like kind of cut out on your own and start doing videos outside of like the CBC or bigger organizations?
Well, it's like I was so lucky, Gtone, man. Honestly, I was blessed. I was in the right place at the right time. So when I came here in 1974, the CBC opened up the big building that they have here. And I was making film on doing the Beachcombers. And in the winter months, I was at the big building that they had at Hamilton in Georgia. And I started working on a TV show called Switchback. That I wrote and produced with Nigel Kosmikas and I. And I would do little music videos for the local bands.
Laurie Mustard? Are we talking about Laurie Mustard?
No.
Different show.
Different
places.
Yeah. Okay.
So we started it here in Vancouver. And, a guy named Gord White, who is now one of the lead clowns for Cirque du Soleil. Really? Another guy named Rick Scott, who was part of the Pied Pumpkin trio there. So it was really an eclectic. Colin Mockery. There was a lot of young, really talented people that went off to do big things. So we sort of flew under the radar. And we had no money, so I did little choosy music videos for my friends here. And they would, we had 90 minutes worth of live television. We had.
As far back as the 70s?
This was like 1978, 79.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Much Music came along. And so I was the guy. Like I was a young guy. I was 25 years old. I knew what the hell a film camera was. And I did a couple for Art Bergman that went crazy, that went really crazy. And Long John Baldry and a bunch of other local guys, Maurice and the Clichés, and tons of them from that era of time. And then I moved to Toronto,
Back to Toronto.
Back to Toronto in 1984. which led into commercials, which led into movies, which really was, man, I just always did it. I never did anything else. I don't know how to do anything else.
That's amazing. You did a
bug
video for me last year, and
Yeah.
I thank you greatly. You did it for me. I don't know if I want to say for free, but
free.
you did it for free.
Yeah.
And
It's a great price.
I love you for it. I used it
Thanks,
for the
G.
promo.
Yeah, you know, but like as I've gotten older in my old age, and you know, I really I know what I said. He's my manager. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I get. I like supporting the guys that are supporting themselves, right? And I mean, right away, I recognized that you were into doing something, but would take it and do something with it, right? So I'm just not into doing them for free for people that are just going to show them to their grandparents and stuff. And I mean, I'm tired of that.
Absolutely, I used it for promotion for last year's acoustic tour, and it totally helped us.
It was really successful, and that was a great thing.
Gigs and everything, yeah.
So you do something. What we did with that one was execute a simple idea. So I bring my camera down, a couple of lights, we rip it off in a couple of hours, and it's really not that
Very
huge
simple.
a deal.
I think
Very simple.
the video matches the song very well.
Yeah.
I thank you for that.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
What song was that?
I Know You by Skeeter and the Deets. You can find it on Facebook. We haven't even posted it to any other
No other
any other
platform
sites
yet.
because that one's got like well over 10,000 hits.
Which is really very cool. That's what makes
Blew
me.
my mind.
That's the reward for
it's
me.
the most viewed thing that I've ever been a part
Yeah,
of, and I thank you for doing that for me.
I mean, that's the you know, at this stage of my life, I really I like the smile on your face when I can, you know, that's cool. That's cool. People appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So it's fun.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm going to move on to Richard. I want to get some of your history as well. I know you grew up in Winnipeg, 2 hours from where I grew up. So coming up as a child and a teenager, what turned you on to music and some of your first projects, I suppose, from Winnipeg?
I got into music pretty young through mostly my two cousins, one from my dad's side, one from my mom's. One of them was an actual singer who, the first live thing I ever saw was in a basement in Winnipeg. They were running through like Zeppelin and Santana and Deep Purple and stuff like that. And it was pretty, and actually the drummer in that band is Mitch Dorge, who went on to play with the Crash Test Dummies, I believe.
Wow.
I believe that's what it was. But anyway, so they kind of nurtured me in kind of in a way. And my other
How old
cousin,
would you have been at that time?
10, 11, something like that.
Nice.
There was no music in my household growing up. I mean, it was no need to go back that far, but yeah, it wasn't a musical household. But my other cousin was huge into music. He would buy like tons of records, mostly 45s. It's a vinyl thing. It's a 7-inch. I don't know if you've.
Oh, spit it
Records?
out. I'm
Yeah.
the old man.
We all know records.
Yeah,
They're
I
making a
know.
comeback these
Yeah,
days.
I'm kidding. I was waiting. I need help here. And he would move on because he was young. He was older than me, but you know how you kind of move from one as you get older, you more sophisticated. So it started off with like bubble gum stuff that was big in the '60s and '70s, and it moved on. And so I would buy them off him for cheap. And they would, God, I can't even remember what they were, but
The Archies, Sugar.
that was one of them.
Absolutely, it would have been
Spirit
one
in
of
the
them.
Sky, Norman
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Greenbaum.
No, Eve of Destruction was my first one.
Barry McGuire. That was earlier, though.
I'm older.
Yes. Older. So anyway, kind of just grew into that and just then, of course, found my own thing, musical things. I remember hearing Kick Out the Jams by the MC5 at one of my friend's house. His uncle had it. It was on 8-track.
I love them 8-tracks.
Yeah, and this other friend who I hadn't seen in 40 years, We actually came out to the show on Friday night in Winnipeg, which was great. And his place was the first place I ever heard raw power, which was probably 1973 or 4 maybe when it came out. It came out in 73, but and that kind of started me down what became punk rock, known as punk rock, a few years later. And I remember I wanted to play guitar, so my dad was playing baseball, and a guy on the team was selling music lessons. So I bugged my dad, and so the guy came over to the house to do an aptitude test. And I was thrilled and excited because I was going to get to learn how to play guitar. So he comes over with an accordion, and I did my musical aptitude test on an accordion, and I failed miserably, of course. So that dashed my dreams for a few years. And then when the Ramones came out, and I'm still in therapy over that.
I was just wondering, do you have like a natural hatred for the accordion now, or a deep love of it?
The Shimoleski brothers.
All right.
That's all I'm saying.
Just saying.
Who's the Canadian guy with the accordion?
I mean, he's like won 20 Grammys with the accordion.
Something
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't recall.
Mike.
Love that guy. Love
who
him.
won 20 Grammys for the accordion.
Yeah,
He did. Seriously.
Yeah, he's won 20
like
Grammys
forever.
for this accordion.
Not front page news.
Well, there's nobody else playing accordion, so like,
Right. It's like it's a good genre to get into.
Yeah.
So anyway, that kind of took a back seat, but and then when like the Ramones came out and all that, and there was a quote from this fanzine out of England in 76, I think, or it might have been likely 77. Brian James from The Damned, and the quote was, "No one playing in a band is worthless." And 40 years later, it's still with me. And through, buying Sex Pistols and The Damned and The Clash and all the early stuff, me and this friend of mine, who was also playing with me on Friday, which was amazing, that 40 years later we're still playing together whenever we can. We just picked up an instrument. I picked up a cheap guitar, and he picked up drums, and we just started playing. And that's to me the biggest gift that punk rock gave me. It was that anybody can do it.
Anybody could do
If
it.
you
I went
want-
through the same thing in 91 when I saw Nirvana come across the screen on MTV.
Yeah.
I was like, what? You don't have to be Guns N' Roses?
That's exactly what it gave me. It's like when I was younger, the way it was, at least my perception, was that you had to be not a god, but to be a guitar player or, a great player or singer or whatever. It was kind of just on a different level. And then when punk rock, people nowadays, the Sex Pistols were like a boy band. They were manufactured, and whether or not, I don't think it's true to a large degree, but regardless, is they gave me as you would say, the permission to suck.
yeah.
But because I loved it, and it allowed me to buy a cheap guitar and start,
Amazing.
And the journey has been long and arduous.
Worth it.
But absolutely.
Absolutely worth it.
F. Scott Fitzgerald, great author, he was asked, because he was around in Paris in the 20s, and with all the whole world, which is looked on with amazement nowadays, but they asked him, maybe towards the end of his life, he goes, "You were in Paris and Hemingway and all this amazing stuff," and he said, "What was it like?" And F. Scott Fitzgerald goes, "The price was high," which I thought was pretty simple yet succinct. But true, and it's sort of the same thing. I mean, would I change a thing? Absolutely not. There's been a lot of amazing things, and musically it's almost always been amazing. you know, the lifestyle choices I made along the way. You know, all of a sudden you're hurtling over the cliff at 300 miles an hour, and it's like, ooh, this is gonna hurt.
As long as you learn those lessons
And you survive them.
correct them when they need to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't pay much attention to the signs on the way
Yeah.
over the cliff, but yeah, you know, we hopefully we learn at least a little bit from everything, and until one day, for me anyway, I realized that I couldn't be, you know, in a larger sense, the man I knew I could be and should be, and that encompassed my whole life, not just music.
For sure.
But I have never been so, you know, I don't know if prolific would be the right word, but you know, in the last 10 years, when I decided to change my ways, let's say, I have never been so focused and you know, it's, I've done some things that were quite popular, and you know, a lot of things that weren't, but you know, hey. But I've never been one to, I was in a band in early 80s called Personality Crisis that have some acclaim. And
Did that start in Winnipeg?
Yes. Yeah, we started in 1980. I'm kind of all over the place.
And it was a local act for how long? Because I know you guys did actually break out and do some traveling and actually spreading the word.
Yeah,
What's the history on that? A little bit of.
Well, I'll go back a couple years just to lead up to
Yeah.
it quickly. In 1977, early 78, we started playing music. Like I was
born in '78, by the way.
Yes, so I was learning guitar in 1978, trying to anyway. So anyway, me and my friend who we started together, Mark Halderson, we started a band called Low Life. And, you know, we were like really the first punk rock band. And there was other bands, but we were like the only band that was really just learning how to play as we went, you know, which is whatever. But so we ended up, you know, we gigged around Winnipeg and stuff like that. And we put out a single in 1979, which is just got re-released a few months ago on Hozak Records out of Chicago. And the original ones are selling for $300 or $400 now,
Wow.
if you can get one.
How many vinyl copies you're talking?
Yes.
How many? Do you know how many were printed at the time?
972.
972 vinyl copies of Personality Crisis.
No, this is Low Life.
This is Low Life,
yes.
1978.
It came out in 79.
79.
Yeah. So anyway, Low Life imploded right when the record came out, of course. And there was this other band that kind of came out of it. It didn't come out of it, but Mark and I ended up joining this band called La Kill. It was sort of druggy, psychedelic band. They were great, but they went through some personnel changes, and Mark and I joined them, and we decided that it wouldn't be right to call it what it was, so we, with a few different members and stuff, it turned into Personality Crisis. And our first sort of touring for that, I was still playing bass. I was playing bass at that point. We did 3 shows with the Romantics in 1981. We played Winnipeg, Regina, and Saskatoon, which was quite the jump for us because, you know, we'd played bars and clubs and stuff like that. But yeah, they were huge because that. Shut up. You know, we're trying to do an interview here, Michael. Did my phone
Michael's
ring?
phone's blown up.
My phone ring.
Did my phone ring when they were asking you questions?
My stocks went up.
Not in my books, they didn't.
Oh, no.
No, exactly. So, and then we had some more member changes and stuff like that, and we did a record. We started in '83, And we were touring the West, like Calgary, a little bit of Edmonton, Regina. We played a couple times. Vancouver a lot. And then we would go down, started going down the coast to San Francisco and Seattle and stuff like that. And that's basically was our turf, was like the West Coast and then Western Canada. We, we starved and, but it was...
As musicians do.
Yeah. I always look back on it at the time. I didn't own anything other than my guitar, my amp, and a suitcase of clothes. I had no...
How old were you at this time?
This would have been 90 or 83. I was like 21, 22. I had no place to live, NFA as they used to call it, no fixed address.
Yeah.
But in looking, it was the only time in my life, not that it's been bad since, but where I could actually say that I was free in this world. There was no roots, there was no bills, it was just wherever we went, that was it, that's the world. And it was, as F. Scott, the price was high ultimately, but it was amazing. We just, long before the internet and cell phones and stuff.
It was a really interesting period of time creatively in Canada for our generation, from 1975 to 1985. Right, both musically and for what it was that I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because we were Canadian, we didn't have nearly the money that anybody else had, or nearly the opportunity. So the ballsy ones that would really just be creative. You had to be really creative in order to get seen or advance down the thing. And it took a band like Personality Crisis to get in a van and just go. And be young enough, naive enough, and cocksure enough to go, yeah, Buck, let's go to San Francisco. Yeah, right. Buck, let's go to New York. Yeah, Buck, yeah, let's go to L.A. But
that's how you do it. To this day, that's still how you do it.
Totally.
Yeah, but I don't know that you're as welcomed in L.A. as you would be, or in San Francisco. It's like there's just a different.
The market
period
is
of time.
definitely saturated, and it's a
and
lot tougher to roll in and be recognized.
Because we were the first ones doing it, or certainly like I did it in film, but he did it in a band. But there weren't a lot of guys doing it back then, right?
Well, proportionately.
Proportionally.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you were good, it got recognized. I mean, there wasn't a pipeline of information that's available now. But, I mean, being mid-plus 50s, it's like, well, I remember when, but it was different, but yet I agree with you. There was no better way than to get out and be seen and work it. And it's like a lot of, and this year, this kind of my goal is to put up more records and do more shows and kind of, rather than just do like Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vancouver, is to play the cities in between, and I have no expectations or delusions or illusions, same thing, of anything other than this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and
I like that, and you've been pursuing it your entire life, and there's no reason you should stop now.
It's
you should definitely pursue that.
Absolutely.
I think it's legit. So we're talking about Personality Crisis in the mid '80s.
Yes.
How long did Personality Crisis run to?
I went from 81 to 84. It's pretty, I found out tonight that the world is about 4.5 billion years old.
You did.
Where'd you hear that?
I may have been somewhere. I can't remember who. So, 3 years in that, and I do think in those terms sometimes, it's just a speck, So not a very long period of time. We crammed a lot of...
Keep going.
I saw a smirk there. Yeah, it imploded. We had no management. The being young, naive, and cocksure and all that stuff.
Poor planning.
Well,
Did you have
would
a
have
road manager at least that was level-headed?
You would
able
have to actually have planning in order for it to be poor.
So it's sub-poor.
It was, well, yes.
It always amazes me that tours like in general could happen. Just people made it to the towns, the cities, it worked out, and then someone's like, "Hey, hold on, we can do this professionally and have a manager or someone that is like keeping an eye on shit." And before it would be like, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's surprising that it worked out at all.
Yeah.
Well, in spite of that,
Sure,
yes. Yeah. I mean, we were, dare I say, quite a good band, and the legacy maybe is larger
Obviously,
than
in the 3 or 4 years that you did it, you made a big stamp.
in a small chunk of real estate, But we were never really ever approached by like management or booking and as things go or as they went in my 20s and the rest of the guys, there was probably or possibly a little too much alcohol and
Allegedly.
and other
Allegedly.
things, and you can't sustain a band playing one night a week on the road.
Absolutely not.
And we would be making, and,
Unless you're U2.
Right. And we were not U2, apparently. Or did you mean like the U2 movement?
Yeah. Or as well.
The Me Too movement or the
Yeah. The Me Too movement.
I meant the band.
Yeah.
The-
Oh, just clarifying. I don't want to be misquoted here.
No.
So it got ugly and it kind of just fell apart.
Were you still basically out of Winnipeg at the time, or at what
We
point
were-
did you decide to, you personally, leave Winnipeg and
Oh,
pursue?
I was still. I mean, like I said earlier, there was no real home, but
No fixed
Winnipeg
address.
was kind of where we
Right.
ended up. Two of the guys at that point lived in Calgary, so it was kind of we'd get together, rehearse, write songs, tour, and we'd end up back in Winnipeg. They'd go back to Calgary for 6 months or 4 months or whatever. So yeah, I was in Winnipeg that was '84, and did some other bands, local stuff from '84 till '88, and then moved to Vancouver late '88, and with the, I don't know if dream would be this, but just to maybe try it in a bigger city. With,
Well, I came out here.
Yeah, and what I have found over the years is that scenes, music scenes and stuff, they're all exactly the same no matter where you go. Like the whole, not 6 degrees of separation, but it's interesting how small I'll use us collectively.
Yeah.
No,
how small
I see that when I'm traveling
Right.
everywhere. The
Right.
music scene makes the world seem a very small place.
it does, and
Because
it's
everyone's met everyone. If you haven't met someone in the music scene, all you have to do is travel through that town and go to one show. You're going to meet that person.
yes, and which is amazing.
Absolutely.
It's,
That's why we do it.
But moving out to Vancouver, yeah, the clubs are bigger. There's more, but it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen. It's like, and back then, at least I thought, if I moved from Winnipeg, and I was sort of known in Vancouver just because Personality Crisis has been through here so many times, and it certainly helped in the relocation and getting people to play and stuff. So yeah, I was here from '88 to '91, I think, '90 or '91, and then down to LA, and then back and forth for years. And
Did you end up getting what's that called? Dual citizenship or something like that?
no.
How do you live down in LA now?
Well, I'm married to a woman who is actually dual citizen. So I have a resident alien card, I believe they're called.
Green card.
Green card, yes.
Canadian with a green card. That's awesome.
Exactly. It sure helps, yes.
So your
Your
time.
worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your time in LA has obviously been good to you. I know there's been several projects that you've been involved in, including Guns N' Roses Spaghetti Incident and touring with Duff McKagan and some Johnny Thunders stuff and all these things. These are all things that came across your plate while you were down there. I would.
I will give you a quick backstory.
Okay.
Most of them,
Okay.
yeah. I had met Duff in 1982, I believe, when I was in Personality Crisis, when we were playing in Seattle. We met one night, and occasionally in my life I have met people where the first time you meet them and hang out, there's just that instant, like you just kind of unconsciously know, unconscious being the operative word there.
Don't look at me.
Allegedly.
Alleged, you know. Rumor has it that you just knew that you were going to be really tight and good, close friends. I don't know why. It happens sometimes. And we kept in touch. We left and went down to San Francisco where we were playing. And we kept in touch over the years. And when we went down, this band I was in, TT Racer, with Paul McKenzie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We moved to LA in 91, I think it was 91. And what year was it? I think it was 90. It must have been 92. Duff was getting ready to do his solo record, Believe in Me, as it turned out. And he asked me called me one night and said, "Hey, do you want to play guitar on You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory, Johnny Thunders?" And I said, "Sure," you know. He goes, "Well, come down tomorrow night," whatever it was, to the studio, and don't have to bring a guitar. I have guitars. And so I went down there and, you know, hilarity ensued. Thank you. And eventually we ended up with the track. And, you know, I kind of didn't forget about it, but it was, you know, whatever. And I was doing other stuff, playing with other bands. And I moved back to Canada in 90. Must have been 93, early 93, I think it was. And was, you know, I was working construction and, you know, I don't even know if I was playing. Yeah, I was playing with some people around town. And my ex-wife and I, we decided to go back to Winnipeg just for a holiday or whatever. So we had our dog, German Shepherd, and we'd just bought a 76 Cordoba with the, it wasn't the fine Corinthian leather, it was the, but anyway, so we were instead of taking the number 1 all the way, because I'd done it a million times, we were going to go through the States. Anyway, the first night we get into Montana, and the engine blows up.
Oh no.
So we're on the side of the road, and it's 93. It's summer, early summer 93. And there's no cell phones. And so some trucker called AAA, luckily. So this guy finally came and took us to, I'll make this as short as possible, took us, he goes, "Oh, a friend of mine runs a motel just down the road." And we're like, "Okay." So, and it's pitch black. It's like a Saturday night, and, you know, you're in the middle of nowhere. So he flips around and gets on the other side of the freeway, and we're driving, and it's kind of like, you know, what could possibly go wrong here? So he pulls off the freeway, and it's pitch black. It's not like there's anything. And all I could think about was the Deliverance kind of.
Yeah.
It came to mind. So we pull off and it's driving, and I'm just like, oh fuck, we are in something here. So out of nowhere, there's this hotel or a bar. It wasn't a hotel, it was a bar. And he pulls in front, and we're like, okay. I was pretty happy that we had our German Shepherd with us at that point, at least, you know. like a long,
Some sort of sense of security.
yeah, fleeting, but yes. And then, I was long hair, leather jacket, and my wife was, thin, blonde, tall, and this German Shepherd with a heart condition.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Just sound like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, totally, completely.
So we get out of the whatever, the guy's truck, tow truck, and we go into the bar. It's a Saturday night, and you ever see Werewolf? What's it called? American Werewolf in London, or
Yes.
whatever it's called.
Yeah.
When they walk into that bar, and everything stops, time stops, sound stops.
Yeah.
It was exactly like that.
Like, you don't belong here.
Everything stopped and everybody turned around,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh shit. And it's like, it's all rednecks, it's all completely white. I mean, I'm white. I don't know if you knew that or not, but so I was, at least we got one thing going for us.
Sure, yeah.
And anyway, we ended up spending a week there because the car was screwed, and he'd sent parts off to Missoula to get machined, and so we ended up there a week.
Sounds like a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, there was some things that happened there that I won't go into, but DeBorgia, Montana. Look it up sometime. It's a
Sure.
lovely place. So we go like, screw this. We're going to go back to Vancouver. So the car was screwed even after we spent $1,000 on it. The bar owner made the garage give us back all of the money except for what he spent machining the parts. And then he gave us a car to drive home in, which was an Aspen or something like that, with Idaho plates. I didn't ask any questions.
Sure.
I just wanted to get home.
Did you keep your car?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
it was going
That was
nowhere.
a trade
Yeah,
then.
it was a trade. Yes.
There was no problem crossing the border with these Idaho plates.
Nope.
That's when the border wasn't an issue.
It was 93. It was 8 years before it would be an issue.
Not really an issue.
Yeah. So anyway, we get back and it's the following Saturday, and there was a message on the answering machine. It's like, hey, it's my friend Joey from LA. He goes, hey, call me tonight. I want you to come down and play in Duff's band. So I was like, so I call him. He goes, hey, you want to come down and try out for Duff's band playing bass? And I was like, yeah, sure. When? He goes, you need to be here tomorrow. So I was like, well, I ain't got no money for a plane ticket. So your brother's going to have to do a lot of editing, obviously. Thank you.
Allegedly.
Thank you, Brother James. So he goes, well, hang on, I'll get back to you. And the Guns N' Roses manager calls me. He goes, are you going to come down and do this? It'd be great. Da, da, da. I said, yeah. I said, I don't have the money for a plane. He goes, oh, don't worry. The travel agent's calling you in 5 minutes, and we'll see you tomorrow. So I was like, cool. So I said goodbye to the wife and flew down and auditioned. And so all of a sudden, we're...
I mean, there was no bass playing to be done. You just walked in and they gave you the...
It was always going to be... I mean, I had known Duff for
Yeah.
longer than anybody else.
yeah.
And so I always thought it was hilarious that they said it was an audition. It was like, it's bass. How hard can it be?
Oh, wow. That's shots fired.
Ow.
Shots
I've
fired.
been saying it for years.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I've been playing bass seriously since 1978. I mean, I can play bass, and I know you can too. It wasn't a shot at you. Although, have you
Undisputed
heard?
all bass players.
Have you heard him play bass?
Yeah.
That's who they should have called.
Pure
All
fire.
right.
So anyway, so we had, his record had come out, but You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory wasn't on it. And I was like, okay, whatever. So the tour was to go playing stadiums or arenas mostly, actually, in Europe, opening for the Scorpions, which was, they weren't one of my favorite bands growing up, but I certainly liked the Scorpions. And we were opening up for them. And we got the tour because the Scorpions manager, Doc McGee, who's a famous rock manager, Bon Jovi, Kiss, and all that. He was playing golf with Guns N' Roses manager, and they had a bet on about putting or this hole. And Doc McGee lost, so we got on the tour. That's how tours are booked, people.
Classic.
It's not about who you
That's
know.
how millionaires play their cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is. So yeah, we went over there like 3 months. Played like all over.
Amazing.
It was like, because it was Duff.
Duff had his own band at the time called like the Duff McKagan band. Or what?
That's who we were. Yeah, we were Duff, the band.
Right.
And
I've seen his Netflix show. I can't remember what it's called, but it was totally like a live presentation by him where he's going through his life.
Oh, his
basically
book.
I think.
It's from his book. It's I saw it too. It's called "It's So Easy and Other Lies."
That's it.
And
Yeah.
it's him in Seattle, I think, doing a live
Yeah.
thing, but we're also reading from his book.
Right. I think it was a reenactment of his book
Yes.
for the stage.
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he's had an interesting life. I'm a survivor as well, you know. So, yeah, I got to go, or we got to go to Europe for 3 months, stayed in 5-star hotels and had the tour bus and played in front of 15,000 people 3 or 4 nights a week. And, yeah, it was, you know, from playing, you know,
Winnipeg.
yeah, playing, you know, small, tiny places in Winnipeg or tiny places here in Vancouver.
That's,
you know,
that's a hell of an experience.
it was, and you know, I couldn't get over the fact that I get to do all that and they're paying me. You know, it was like a real tour. It was amazing. It was great.
Killer.
And then, sorry, I'll finish
You're
that.
right,
up. Then I found out that that Axl Rose had heard Duff's version of "You Can't Put Your Arm Around Memory," and the reason it wasn't on Duff's record was because Axl demanded that it be on the Guns N' Roses record.
Really?
The
That's
spaghetti
the spaghetti incident thing. That's
Yeah.
how you made it on the spaghetti incident.
And so I made it on the spaghetti incident through the back door.
Wow.
Yeah. And I always kind of thought, with no disrespect to anybody, but because Duff's record didn't sell that well, I'm guessing. So, you know, I kind of lucked out in that respect where, you know, now I have this platinum record, you know, sitting in
They
my
gave
studio.
you a platinum record for that?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me.
So, you
Do
know.
you get royalties for that album and all that?
No, 'cause
they
it's
paid
all-
you for the session,
Yes,
but you
and
were
it's all
involved, so you get-
covers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, the funny thing I got, which is, what do they call it? Studio work? Studio fee, whatever. There's a term for it, which I think was $500 odd
Session
dollars.
musician.
Session
Yeah,
fee.
yeah.
Thank you. You've obviously done more than I have.
One or two.
Yeah, that's about one
I'm sure
one
you've
more
done.
than I have. So the pay for that was around $500, and after I got a check a few months later, or whatever. After taxes, I think I got about $200, which I thought was hilarious.
And you said thank you to the
Absolutely.
government. Just joking.
Yeah, I mean, at the
Joking.
time I was really broke, so
Oh,
yeah, I
okay,
wasn't
fair
thrilled
enough,
about
yeah.
that. But
No, fair
you
enough.
know, it was
But
like,
you know, but
Taxation is theft.
Totally, but from a guy who's like been wanting to play guitar my entire life, like to be able to get that far is like
Yeah.
fucking
oh,
monumental.
it's
Major.
something I never really
Yeah.
ever dreamed of.
That's
really,
crazy. That's awesome.
you know, I mean, you know, it's not about the money, and
Yeah.
you know, it never was. It was about, you know, and I quit, you know, 15 years ago playing music because it's, you know, for personal issues, let's say. But then when I got sober or whatever, 9 and change years ago, I started playing again and recording and learning how to use recording software and all that stuff. And I realized at one point that I was doing it again for exactly the same reasons I started. Mm-hmm. It wasn't sex and drugs. It was for the love of music. And I can say that with a straight face because I didn't start out to be it was because I loved guitar and music, and it was all about the music. And that kind of got a little diluted along the way, just because that's the way it goes sometimes. But I realized like 6 or 7, 8 years ago that I was actually doing it for exactly the same reasons that I started playing. And, you know, I mean, you said blessed earlier or whatever, but,
fuck.
you know, it's like, I'm just some kid from St. Boniface, you know, and, you know, of course everybody, or not everybody, but, you know, dreaming as a young kid, rock star, you know, and that never, you know, never really happened. That's not the point. It's the point that, you know, here I sit today talking with you guys and you.
And me.
You know, and I still get to do it.
Right.
You know, and, you know, it's more than I could have ever really hoped for in that respect. And if you don't mind, I'm going to tie this in, and
I was,
you know,
gonna
and
go to,
I get to started help you out there. Along the way, we meet people. You know, I met you. We played in a band together
First
one
time,
night.
first time I met you was at
Yes.
it was a fuck band thing. If anyone doesn't
Fuck
know what a
band-
fuck band is,
fuck
it's a bunch-
bandioke or something.
yeah, a bunch of musicians get together in a room and you kind of draw names, and you may end up playing an instrument that you don't know how to play, or an instrument that you do know how to play. And it was my first time riching meter, my first time meeting Richard. I think it was called like the Shanghai Tigers or something like that.
Yeah.
Was it something like that?
Yes, that's what it was. Yes.
And not only do you pick out of a hat to pick who's in the bands, but who plays what instrument, and they gave you an envelope of songs that probably none of you in the band know how to play. So you get 15 minutes to figure out the 3 songs, and then you have to go up and perform them. And we did this together for the first time. I think we were probably the best act of the night.
I wouldn't say that.
Allegedly.
Was that the Born to Be Wild night?
Yes. Michael also played that night. Yeah. But I mean, along the journey, you know, is about, you know, meeting Duff. You know, he wasn't just another.
That's the thing. It's almost like another testament to how small the music industry really is.
Absolutely.
If you do a little bit of traveling, the chances of you meeting the people that are actually out there doing the things that you want to do are, they're there.
You're not going to meet him sitting at home,
across.
that's for sure.
That's right.
So you know, this journey, this chapter, the last 6, 7 years, like 4 years ago, I think it was like 4 and change.
Yeah.
I think we met in November
Yeah.
last year, 2013, I believe it was.
This is for the fuck you fame whore stuff.
It was prior to that.
Prior to
it
that.
was just prior to that. I was playing. What's that place on Broadway?
Fairview?
The Fairview.
Oh yeah.
I was playing a show at the Fairview, and this mutual friend of ours introduced us, or basically set up an introduction, and I met Michael, and you know, he's a photographer. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. And so I met him on Main Street, I believe, Main Street, and he goes, okay, we're gonna take some pictures. And you know, most photo shoots I'd been on, they're a couple of hours, set up the lights and test prints and whatever, Polaroids.
Test prints on the shoot.
Exactly. So he's like, okay, you know, do this, do that. And like 5 minutes later, he goes, okay, that's cool, I got it. And I was like, huh?
Bro, this guy's been doing it.
Or has no idea what
Or
he's
he has
doing.
no idea
I mean,
what
I don't know at this point. So
Either way, it's
anyway,
happening.
it was another case of meeting somebody who, when you meet, you have all these things in common, and you just kind of know that this person's, you know, in a general sense, is going to be a part of your life, or at least a part of the journey forward or whatever. And it was, the first video was 2014. Was 3 or 4 months later, at the start of the Fuck You Fame Horror period, which was
Was the first one all shot down? Was that the very first one we did?
It was.
Holy crap.
Is that a project that was spearheaded by someone in particular, or you guys came upon
Well,
this together?
it was the way it happened. Michael, I think it was the first time you had come down to LA.
It was the first time I was in LA, and I remember sitting in the back patio, and he had written
by the pool.
by the pool.
Yes,
he had
sorry.
written a song with
Comfy.
a guy named Mike Hudson that
Allegedly.
sang All Shot Down, and another friend of mine, Dave Raven, played guitar on it.
Yes.
And Paula sang on it,
My
and
wife.
we were just there. And I wanted to be in this video. Like, I wanted to find a little cameo for me to be in this video. So we figured out something for me to do. And we just didn't want to say fame whore. Do you remember?
Well, I remember exactly how
Yeah.
it. Okay, I will back it up a little bit. Mike Hudson, who passed away late last year, he was in a punk rock band from 1977 from Cleveland called the Pagans. And I met him out in LA a few months before you came out. It was, I think, just after we had met.
Yeah.
And we had talked a bit, and I'd sang on one of their records, one of the new ones, 3 and change years ago. And then in January, I was talking to Mike about starting. He wrote a book. He was an author as well. He wrote a book called Fame Whore. And I thought, that's a great name for a band. So, and I told Mike, I said, hey, I got this song that I wrote. It's called All Shot Down, that I had written after Dave Gregg passed away from DOA. I think all of the people dying just came in at once and really affected me. And I wrote that song after that. And I had done vocals and everything, but I saw in Mike, the perfect song for him to sing. And we were going to do this record called Fame Whore. And he sang it, and it's great. And I wrote some other songs, Fuck You, Fame Whore, and a few other things.
Running theme.
Yeah, right, yeah,
What's that?
Running theme.
totally.
But I think
It's in everything.
I wrote Fuck You, Fame Whore after. Anyway, so Michael's in town, and it's the morning of the video shoot.
Yeah.
And we had with a foam core, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where Michael put Fame Whore. And I was like, it needs something more
Yeah.
to make it stronger and and I was like, how about Fuck You, Fame Whore? I mean, living in LA, it's kind of the perfect thing.
Rolls right off the tongue.
It kind of does, right?
Yeah.
So Michael put it on the foam core board, and I was like, yes. We agreed. We were like, yes, this is, it takes it to a different place than just Fame Whore.
It does really.
It's funny, like I have and I wear the shirt out in LA sometimes, and it kind of transcends the band or it's a strong statement.
It's a very strong statement.
But and everybody can kind of, whether they appreciate the swearing on it, the sentiment,
Yeah.
being such a sensationalistic time we live in with the Kardashians and this, one
Yeah.
might say that they're no talent. I certainly wouldn't. But some people might allegedly say that.
Allegedly. But it sure gets noticed, that's for
But
sure.
people who, there's this big band. I went to see Michael Monroe, who used to be in Hanoi Rocks at the Roxy play, and I was going in and out all night, cigarettes, and I was leaving, and this bouncer, this huge black bouncer, stops me on the way out when I'm actually leaving. I was like, uh-oh, what did I do? He goes, man, I gotta get me one of those.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And it really hit me how wide it theoretically could reach in terms of just the statement,
It's pretty amazing. You just never know in this world, right? Some of the stuff that I've done that I just whipped off, that I never thought at all would be successful, was the most successful. And the stuff I labor over like crazy, and I just polish and polish and polish, people go, yeah, well, whatever. And you just never know. You know, I mean, I do remember the afternoon of sitting in by the pool in the morning, you know, going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And, you know, we always go out and do something. I've done maybe 8 or 9 or 10 videos with Richard, and I mean, I'll tell you the truth. How many?
Oh, I haven't counted.
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah, I don't know.
6 or 7.
7.
Maybe something
But
like that.
whatever we do, we really kind of, you know, sort of know what we're gonna do.
We have the best of intentions. You know, that's all I'm
And we
gonna
just
say.
go out and sort of do it the way we did it on the Beachcombers.
But
yeah,
like
it was,
much
yeah.
like yourself, doing your yearly thing, it's like. And I have a tattoo. It's actually from a Johnny Thunder song. You know, you got to walk that walk if you're gonna talk that talk.
Absolutely.
And you know, the thing, like, Facebook has been amazing for me in doing what I do, and I, you know, people use it for different reasons, and sometimes it, you know, my opinion, it's, but I use it for, I try to use it for good, you know, humor, music, blah 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 blah.
It's a platform that keeps me creating. And
Yeah.
if I can continue to create, then I can continue to live and to not just live but thrive.
Yes,
right. And
exactly.
I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive in this world. And some people can like what we do, and some people get, oh, there's the 2 fucking RDs are at it again with their profanity and everything else. But you know what? You know, God bless them, and they can do whatever they want. But the truth of the matter is,
We're
Richard
doing
and I,
it.
we're doing
We're
what
doing something.
We're doing something.
Absolutely.
It doesn't need to be loved by everybody, but it needs to be done. And you know, when I first met Richard, it was because a very significant person in my life had passed away. And I could have gone down 2 roads at that point. I mean, I could have just gone down the woe is me, lament myself, and just throw it all in, or I could just get up and embrace what happened. And I met Richard just really right when it was awful, really, truly awful. And I went down with him, and we just started doing stuff. And when I look back at some of those photographs, I mean, I can see, you know, there's grief and terror in my face, and really sort of just dragging my ass through it all. And we have to carry on. I mean, today is another fucking day.
Absolutely.
Richard and I came home, you know, this afternoon, and I get a phone call, and an extraordinarily close friend of ours passed away today. And we started talking, and it's, I mean, all that we have in this world is this moment, and we must continue to participate in this world, or else really kiss my ass. What else have we got? We got a bunch of stories, you know, like Richard likes to say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And you know, we got tons of good stories. Like, but we're alive. We're here.
Beautiful.
You know, I'm 62 fucking years old, and I'm sitting here on the radio talking about crazy shit.
Contributing.
Contributing. You know, if some young kids can hear what we did, I mean, there's one thing that we both, Richard and I, talk about all the time, and that have been massively successful at. And it goes, and I was going to interrupt you when you were talking about personality crisis. He mentioned to me a long time ago that those guys would get up in the morning and play all day. Then they get hammered, and then they'd play all night. Then they go to bed, and they'd play all day, get hammered, and play all night. And they did that over and over and over again. It wasn't like they played in 5 bands and they kind of threw together a quickie rehearsal and tried to figure it out. And that's how and then you take that shit on the road, and that's how you get noticed.
Absolutely.
Right? And I did that because I had no friends or relatives when I first moved here. I had to shoot film. I had to work. So I was stealing film from the Beachcombers and doing my own still photography, right? And my brother helped me in some of the early music videos.
It's okay. The statute of limitations is long over.
Let's say
We did not
allegedly,
steal film
who
from the
knows what
CBC.
happened.
But in the early...
Sorry, Trudeau.
The first Art Bergman video that I did, which was Empty House, some friends of mine were in the movie business, and they had me spent $500,000 building a cave at the Bridge Studios, and in a few months building it. And just before they were shoot, they canceled the movie, so the movie was done. So I got a call on Friday night going, Michael, you can shoot whatever you want in this cave. You have it for 48 hours. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, they're coming in with the bulldozers to tear it apart.
Demolish a $500 million
Yeah,
$1,000
set.
Yeah.
So it was, I went and allegedly borrowed some lights from the CBC and borrowed a camera from the CBC. and thought, what best band can I get to partake in this thing that not only fits the cape, but will also do what you did, right? Take it and promote themselves and move further down the path with it. And Art Bergman won, and we went and we did it, and it was one of the most successful videos of the time. And guys, that was 1985.
Can people find that online?
They can find that online.
What do they call that? The
Art
video?
Bergman.
Art Bergman. What's the name of the song?
The
or
song
video?
is Empty House.
Okay.
Won't you come home to my empty house? I'm all alone, except for my
Right.
former spouse. And yeah, and then I ended up doing another song. I mean, Richard writes great words, but honestly, nobody can top the Art Bergman line. It's like, I'm a never was, trying to be a has-been by the age of 55. Yeah, and I'm going, right on. I love that.
Nice.
I'm a never was. So anyway, the trick is to just keep moving. The Grim Reaper is standing on my shoulder,
I get
and
that.
he is going to catch me while I'm running,
I
not
love
when
it.
I'm sitting in front of the TV.
I love that. We're
watching
running
Rock
short
and Roll.
on time, but I want to talk about one more thing, and that's
Yeah.
the health issues that you've gone through in the last couple of years. Maybe there's a lot of people out there that love you, and they know that something happened to you, but they don't really know what happened to you. You want to give us an
Well,
update on that, a little bit of history?
The TV guide version is I was about to do something, right? I had been given the opportunity of a lifetime to make a movie, and in order to take that movie, you have to get do a physical in order to get insurance and blah blah blah. So I did all of that, and they discovered I had cancer. So I was out. Boom, done. So post-traumatic stress syndrome. 1 minute I'm here doing this, the next minute I'm standing here doing radiation and chemo and all that other shit.
What kind of cancer did you have?
Prostate cancer is where it started, a long time ago, but then it's progressed into all kinds of other things. It's never really been cured. It goes into remission, and it wanders back again, and then it goes into remission.
And you're in remission right now?
I have what they call chronic CLL, which is chronic lymphoma leukemia. So it's in my blood. I just got to stay with it, manage it, and keep doing my thing. But I feel good. I feel very good. And you can live forever with this shit. So they got this stuff figured out. I trust my doctors. He's an awesome guy. Yeah, when I can get hold of him.
I played a doctor on tour
Yeah,
once.
exactly. Yeah.
Dr. Vic Duguay was my moniker.
Anyway, but and thank you for saving my life. So the real trick is like the health comes from participating in what you got going on, right? You have a choice, and you just.
I want to be remembered for what I'm going to do tomorrow,
Yeah,
not what I
yeah.
did yesterday.
Yeah.
Not done. Not doing the things that need to be done yet.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. That's why I've taken an interest in my my health and welfare and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Give yourself the
I'm
best
not,
shot
I'm
you
not,
can.
I'm not done.
No.
Fuck, I'm going on the road with you, Gtone.
I want to go on the
I hope you're
road.
going
going
on
on
the
the
road
road.
with me.
It's gonna be.
Gtone.
Is this confirmed? No, TBD.
Am I going to be
R.D. Kane is going
involved
to the
in
doctor
this?
this Wednesday.
This Wednesday, I will
Oh,
find
yeah,
out. If
yeah.
the doctor gives me the high five,
Am
I'm
I
going
invited
on the
to
road.
this?
You can come on the road. Yeah, you can.
We could
you
probably
can play
clear a
bass.
seat for you if you
Gtone
want to
doesn't
come.
seem
Do you want to
exclusionary.
do 2 months in Canada this summer?
I could probably do some.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Lots of opportunity there.
I have an amazing acoustic act.
Yeah.
I actually have a lot of acoustic songs.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you on board. Let's talk about that a little later.
Bring your ukulele.
Let's mention.
Actually,
Accordion.
actually, I'm going to bring my accordion act out just for you.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about for a minute
Ah.
the new album. Richard Duguay has just released a new album. It's called "Lead Us to Temptation."
Hey, pretty snazzy front cover.
Pretty snazzy pictures there. Was
Cover
that,
shot by my brother R.D. Kane.
beautiful thing.
R.D. Kane.
And these are all original songs.
Except
Carmelita.
except for Carmelita, which is a Warren
Oh, yeah, right.
Warren Zevon song.
Yep.
Yeah, just
The song "Fuck You, Fame Whore" is on this album.
It is on this album.
I sing on that song. I think.
And Michael is actually singing.
Oh, my goodness.
Singing might be a little bit of a stretch.
Allegedly.
That's a good story, but that's for a whole other podcast.
He did have a microphone in front of him.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, and there's the lead off. Not the lead off. That wouldn't be fair. But the new
Opening track.
the new video
Oh, new video, right?
that Michael did when he was in Los Angeles in November. It just came out last Tuesday, doing really good on.
For which song?
I Gotta Move.
I Gotta Move, the opening track.
The
from
opening
album.
track is the new video, and it's doing pretty killer on social media.
Where are you
Nice.
playing
That's
on
great.
Friday?
Oh, I am playing Pub 340 Friday night.
Friday, February 16th.
February 16th,
340.
Rebel Priest are playing with me in my band,
That'll be a good show.
as well as Mr. Ron Reyes is playing guitar.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, it's going to be a rip-roaring time.
That sounds really fun.
It's fun.
I'll be
Yes.
in Kelowna. If I wasn't in Kelowna, I'd be there. But I'm playing Doc
Kelowna.
Willoughby's with Skeeter and the Deets in Kelowna.
Oh, awesome.
Doc Willoughby's.
Yeah.
Well, say hey to the doc.
I'll say hey to the Doc.
Good doctor.
The good doctor.
Good doctor.
All right, that was really fun, you guys.
Awesome.
I really want to thank you both for
Thanks,
taking the
Gtone.
time to come down and talk to us
Thank you,
about
guys.
about everything.
It's awesome.
Thanks for
Thank you
doing
very
what you
much.
do, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish you luck for the doctors on Wednesday, and hopefully he gives you the clear to come and travel with us.
Cleared to take off. Yeah, well, we'll see.
That
we'll
would be
see.
fun.
I mean,
That
yeah.
would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should talk if you want a piece of that too. There's definitely open seats on several parts of the tour. Because
would,
guys come and go. They fly in. And
I
fly
would
out
love
and
to.
all.
I think that would be amazing. I would love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. Bigger and better every year.
Yeah.
All right. I think
Should
that's
we
it.
mention?
Float House.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the Float House for allowing us to do the podcast here in the room. This is a fantastic room full of all the gadgets that are needed to capture this type of thing.
We are coming to you live from an isolation tank as we
Kind of.
speak.
This room is kind of like an isolation.
What
tank.
is isolation? What is
We're
a tank?
isolated from the rest of the
That's true.
Float House.
Mostly.
That's for sure.
Totally.
Intergalactic interviews. I think you can get a 10% off, 20% off.
your next float.
Next float if you use II podcast
Yeah, lowercase
when
I,
booking
lowercase I.
a float at the Float House.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
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 Float House is rad.
Oh.
I mean, where else are you
Where-
gonna find a better one? I dare you.
I dare
I
you.
dare you. What do they have here? They have cryotherapy in here
Yeah,
now
also
too.
they do have,
They're
Vancouver
expanding.
cryotherapy.
This is all stuff that
Cryo?
helps the body and mind.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. My kind of place.
Yeah.
Great. Spa for your mind. as we
Spa
say.
for your mind.
Cool.
All right.
Dinner time.
Thanks,
Oh, nice.
thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.
We'll talk to you next week.